Alright, what's up everybody? I'm here to show you my little Taiwanese kitchen. So I'm doing the filming, I'm doing the cooking, I'm doing the presenting, all that. So it's going to be the first video I've done like this, so it could be a little bit different. But I'll just show you around the kitchen real quick so you can get an idea. I'm using a 24mm lens on this, so it's going to look a lot bigger than it actually is. So to give you an idea, I'm about 6 feet tall, right? So I come up well beyond the top of my hood. At the same time, it's about 2 body lengths wide, so it's basically a long hallway. So I'll turn it around and I'll have you check it out. So this is from the one end, and then back down the other. So that door leads back into my apartment, and then this door leads out to my balcony. This and that and other plants and stuff. Knives are up top. My prep is down here, and that'll pretty much get us to there. So I apologize for any moving and shaking around. I know that's sort of a cost of doing business. Okay, so first things first, what we're gonna need. Frying pan. If you've got a wok, you can use a wok. I don't know if you can hear that. That's a garbage truck. I know it sounds like an ice cream truck, but it's actually a garbage truck. People have to run out of their houses and drop their garbage off. Alright, so you'll need a strainer. That'll come in later. I'm not using the cutting board because I've actually got strips of pork that have already been all cut up. You're going to need an egg. You're going to need oil to fry and a mixture of wheat flour and cornstarch. I also add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. It's around, we're talking like a cup of cornstarch, a cup of wheat flour, maybe a teaspoon of black pepper, and a quarter teaspoon of salt. And then we'll be using that in a minute as well. So we'll get into the start of the prepping. I'm not sure how I'm going to angle this and make this work, but we'll see how it is when I get back, and hopefully I'll be able to show you how we're going to get this pork done. Alright, we're back. Hello! You can still hear that truck outside. Alright, so we cracked the egg, split it, done. Into the bowl. Let's see into that. Right. You don't have to beat the egg because it's going to get all mixed up once you toss your pork in. So I'm just going to pour in all those strips of pork, and when we put it in, we're going to want to get it untangled, right? We don't want any pork to stick to itself. So you're going to go in and just sort of pick it up and drop it down over and over and over again until all the pieces of pork become separate and the egg fully coats all of it. So one way to do it is just kind of pick it up and then just sort of pull it apart, right? And then do that a few times over and over. For anybody who's in Taiwan watching this, who's curious, this pork just came from Carrefour, Janafu. Usually it's going to be long and stripped like that. At the same time, and see, that was 2 pieces, even though it looked like one. Sometimes you're going to get real flat strips like that. Either way, it doesn't really matter. You can use, like I usually say, as long as one dimension of the meat is sliced thin. So you can do strips, in which case that's 2 dimensions that are thin, or you can do sort of a flat, almost like a hot pot meat, just a real thin sliced sort of thing. So that is pretty good for the pork. So now my hands are all eggy, so I always keep my sink on, which is right behind us. So you can't see the sink, but thankfully I can. Alright. Dry the hands off and we're ready to go. Okay. I'm using an old rice cooker pot. My rice cooker died and I kept the pot and it still works well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that mixture that we talked about before. I'm going to take it. I'm just going to kind of dust the bottom of this. Okay. So it's about yay much, right? Basically we just don't want that egg coagulating too hard at the bottom of the pan. So, and then what we do is, and this part's the little bit tricky part, you want to have Usually the way that I cook is I want to have a dry hand and I want to have a wet hand. This is especially important for breading because just like the breading will stick to your meat, the breading's going to stick to wet fingers as well. So we take it, dripping, and we're just going to kind of toss that in. We're going to want to keep it pretty well spread out, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second. You don't want to lump it all in on top of each other, or you're just making your job more difficult, because you need each of these pieces to be completely coated with this flour and cornstarch. So we take every last piece, even these little remnants in here, they're all going in. Okay? And I'll show you real fast what that looks like. Alright? On we go. Alright, I'm going to take the rest of this breading. Breading's cheap, so be liberal. There's nothing wrong with looking at the breading at the end of it and going, oh, damn, I didn't really need to use that much. I would rather use way too much breading than use too little. Alright? Now, I'm just shaking it around and mixing it around in here, but you're going to be able to see right here, this pork is still clumped together, right? So I actually have to get in and remix, just the same as we did a minute ago when it was in that egg, to coat it with the egg. So we're continually going in, lifting and tossing, lifting and tossing, lifting and tossing. All right. We want all of it to be shaken out and completely coated. So bring it up and toss it, and then see, you can see. And this hand was dry a minute ago. Toss, up in the air, and back down again. Alright, now this is starting to look pretty good. Okay, you might have a couple of pieces sticking, but that's not a huge deal. Okay. Alright, this is looking pretty good. Alright, so next step is wash the hand again. You can hear that sink running all the time. Just a light little bit of water to just keep you sane. Okay, in this case, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to wind up. Here, okay, cool. All right, I'm going to actually wind up using the colander to go and shake the pork out. So it's got a little bit thicker holes than my strainer does. The strainer's going to come in a minute. So first things first, we'll be cleaning as we go, though I probably won't include you on that part of this once we start cooking. Oil. Let's see. All right. It is just like with the breading. It is better to have too much oil than it is to have too little oil. The question really amounts to how frugal do you want to be. If you want to really worry about how much oil you've got, then okay, but it's not going to come out right. So don't cheap out with cheap crap like flour and cornstarch and oil. You might as well do it right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this mix, which is actually a pretty good mixture. This looks pretty solidly done. We're going to start the heat on this. My stove is actually, I hate these burner, I don't know what you call them, the burner rests, the grates on top of it, because actually they're horribly uneven and the pan has a tendency to slide back like that. So one of the things that you just kind of get used to when you cook here in Taiwan is having to deal with that. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to get all this together, and then I'll bring you back once I've kind of wiped up a little bit and be able to get more. Alright, we're getting back just in time actually. The oil is getting hot, and I can just barely start to smell it. It's not smoking yet, but it's to the point where the evaporation is coming off the hot oil fast enough so that it's now stinking up the kitchen. So, which is good. Everybody wants to smell the kitchen. So now we've got, I took all that stuff back out from the strainer. You can see it really, and if you want to take a look, That's what my sink looks like now. So you do have cool. You have that. Now this, now that it's breaded, is going to be okay. But when I put it into the pan, it's going to flash, right? And then, oh, it's not too bad actually. Okay, let's take a look at this. All right, so, and then very quick. It's all on the wrist, right? Quick rotation. Right? Now that's all frying up the same as it would in a deep fryer. And then I'm just gonna kind of lift and toss and use the corner of this to spread stuff out, right? Because again, we don't want those pieces together. We want to make sure everything is as separated and moved around as possible. So you can see in very, very short time just how much all this changes. So take a look at that. So again, it's in the wrist, okay? And that was quite a lot of oil to be able to toss. It's probably going to take practice for you to figure out how to toss a pan full of oil that well, but it's not a big deal. So we continue to cook, we continue to toss. If any oil gets out, I'm not too worried about it because I've got my housekeeper coming this weekend, so she'll overhaul my kitchen for me. Real basic, just kind of let it fry, give it a toss, give it a stir, let it fry, give it a toss, let it fry, give it a toss. I'm going to open up this window because I don't want, it's really cold right now actually. When I say really cold, I mean it's like 65, 70 degrees out. But my window was steaming up and I didn't want to use the fan because I wanted to still be able to talk. So usually I just cook with the door open, it's never closed. But there was some construction in that garbage truck outside, so that was that. Alright, so that's pretty much it. You're just going to keep it rolling until it gets brown, and I won't have you just stay here watching this because it's a pretty boring process. It's going to take anywhere in the neighborhood of like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how you want it. You want to do it right when it all starts to get brown. Actually, you know, in the meantime, this will give me a good opportunity to. Okay, this is the sauce we're going to use. It's actually inside a cheap little ketchup bottle that they sell here in Taiwan. I like these kinds of bottles because they've got the same kind of spout at the top as you'd expect from ketchup. It makes it really easy to direct the flow. The thing that you want to do for the sauce is really simple. When I first made a sweet and sour, I was very anti-ketchup. In general, I'm pretty anti-ketchup. But what you actually want to do is you're going to take, and all this is basically from memory, there's no assigned measurements, okay? But you're basically going to take about a quarter cup of soy sauce, maybe even a little less, if you want a little less. You're going to want a half cup of ketchup, half cup of vinegar, half cup of whatever kind of sweetener you want. You can use regular sugar, brown sugar, honey, whatever it is that you like. Okay? And that's going to make for a fairly sweet, sprayed out the pan a little bit. It's going to make for a fairly sweet and sour. If you want it more sour, add more vinegar. Ketchup itself already has enough salt, as does the soy, so don't add any of that in. And then you've also got plenty of vinegar within the ketchup as well. So equal parts of vinegar and sugar, you're not really going to get that much of a reaction. You kind of need it to lean one way or the other, so you get the, ooh, it's a little sweet and then it's sour, or ooh, it's a little sour but then it gets really sweet, something like that. So we're looking pretty good here. Yeah, we're looking very good here. Alright, so turn it off, give it another couple minutes and then I'll bring you back. Alright, so I just took a drink of something and it went down the wrong pipe. So you might hear me not sounding so good now, but the show must go on. You can see it's just barely starting to brown up, and that's exactly how we want it. Okay. Now I gotta go and make this sink right, because I have to pour, you know, like a horrible... You really shouldn't do this. You really should have a separate can in your kitchen, like some kind of a tin can where you pour your oil. Keep it under the sink and then have it recycled somewhere by somebody or whatever. Obviously, when I say you should, it means that I don't, and I'm not going to. So what I'm actually going to wind up doing is pouring the oil straight down the sink, which is not really a good thing to do, but I'm still going to do it. One thing you want to do if you're going to pour hot oil down the sink is start up your hot water. Get a nice flow going, make it so everything else in there is hot. That way the oil won't stick, it won't congeal, it won't coagulate at all. It is a liquid oil, so you don't really have to worry about that anyway. But better safe than sorry. Alright, this looks perfect. Okay. So take a look at what we got. Okay. Nicely browned up. I can smell it now. I can start to smell the carbon coming off of the browning. And yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that strainer that we had and just dropped one tiny little piece, but not too much. Okay? Alright. Now you're left with a pan that's still a little bit greasy and a bunch of pieces of crispy fried pork that are no longer greasy, which is great. So what we're going to want to do now, move that over a little bit, and we're going to keep that hot water going because I'm going to come back in a second and fix some things up. Now you can see I've only got two hands now, and I can't really set this pork down anywhere because I actually have to deal with this pan. So I'm going to wind up just sort of dropping it back into the kind of bowls that we were using before. And I'm going to show you what I do with the pan. Even though we just used just a massive amount of oil there, I don't really like greasy food. I think that a lot of people, when they complain, especially about Chinese food and things like that, it's because the food is greasy. So we're actually just going to take a piece of paper towel, just wipe it out. Just try to get as much of the excess, any little pieces of cornstarch and flour that are still in there, you can take them out. You're never going to get all the oil off the pan, but you do want it to be relatively oil-free. Okay? There's still plenty of oil inside of this pork that's going to make that. So we pour back in our pork. We've got to move fast because the heat is still up, and we do not want our pork to burn. All right? Give her a shake. And here we go. Pour it in, and we're going to do the same thing as before. Continuous tossing. Toss, toss, toss. It's the easiest way to coach a meat. So let's go. Alright. So, got a few pieces that are sticking a little bit. It's not too bad. That's the other nice thing. If you need just a little bit extra of that sweet and sour sauce, maybe one piece isn't quite getting coated, you have the ability to go and do that. So, let that heat, and actually it's pretty much good now. So, nicely coated. And because I've been talking to you, I haven't had a chance to serve up the rice. But it's okay. I'm turning off the heat completely. I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to go pull up some bowls of rice, and then I'll show you how it looks when it's served. Alright? Run and run. Okay. Gotta angle this a little bit better. Alright, so here we've got, it's a little warm. Here we got our rice. Came off my little rice cooker, and I'm going to do the little bowl first, because that's for my girl, and she likes less rice than I like. I like plenty of rice, so two bowls effectively look like this, full of rice. And then still moving. Right? If you had to, you could heat this up again. If we had left it for, let's say, like 5 minutes or something like that, but we didn't. So I'm trying to get to the right side for you. Usually I can just pour it in, but this is a larger amount than I'm usually cooking for myself. So, so we pour all the pork in. A little bit more for me. All right, so that's mine. And then the smaller portion. All right, and that's that. Take a look. Sweet and sour pork. Good to go. All right, so thank you for watching. It's been nice having you. I hope to see you again.